The doctor looked at me like he didn't want to speak the words. His lips moved slow, careful, as if breaking bad news to a dying man. Mr. Walker, the paternity test results came back. I glanced from the pale doctor to the newborn in the clear bassinet. Her skin didn't match mine. Her hair was jet black, mine's chestnut brown. Still, I had clung to hope. Dumb, blind hope. She's not your daughter. Silence. A hole opened in my chest. My wife, Madison, lounging in the hospital bed like a queen in silk sheets, didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She didn't deny. Instead, she tilted her head, smirked, and said, "Thanks for paying for all of it." I blinked. Paid. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a folded envelope. Thick, detailed, ruthless. I walked over to her bed, dropped the item on her lap like a verdict from a judge. Delivery costs, prenatal care, private room, everything. That's the number. A number I hope you choke on. She picked it up, skimmed the first page, and her expression finally cracked. I saw her pupils dilate. Money was always her weak spot. I leaned in close. Not to whisper. To strike. Not my child. Not my responsibility. Then I turned my back on her and walked out. The nurses parted like waves. No one said a word. No one dared. I hit the elevator button with my knuckle, jaw clenched so tight I thought I'd crack a molar. My hands shook. Not from weakness, but from the restraint it took not to put my fist through the wall. I had spent 9 months watching her shop for baby clothes on my dime, act tired from prenatal yoga that always ended 2 hours late, smile like she was the mother of the year. All while I stayed up nights planning our future, and all while some other man planted his filth in her and vanished before the birth. My phone buzzed. A message. From her. "Madison, don't be dramatic. You're still my husband." I didn't reply. I blocked her. I didn't drive home. I drove straight to a hotel. Cash only. Took a room at the end of the hall. Didn't speak to the clerk. I sat on the edge of the bed in silence until the streetlights began to fade. That's when the rage settled and the ache started. I gave her everything. My time. My trust. My loyalty. And now she sat in a hospital bed, holding a baby that didn't carry a single drop of me in her blood, thanking me like I was a donor. No remorse. No apology. Just ego and entitlement. And I knew, deep in my bones, this was just the surface. There was more. There always is. Madison wasn't just a liar. She was a professional manipulator. And now, I had no wife, no child, no family. Just an expensive bill and the start of a war. The next morning, I woke up in the stiff hotel bed with sunlight leaking through cheap blinds and a taste in my mouth like betrayal had fermented overnight. I hadn't slept more than a couple hours. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Madison's smug face saying, "Thanks for paying for all of it." Over and over, like a broken record of humiliation. I checked my phone. No calls. No texts. Not from her. Not from anyone. That silence screamed louder than any argument. Back at our house, my house, paid for with my hands and my hours, she was probably spinning stories to her girlfriends. "He freaked out," she'd say. "He's being immature." That's how it always went. Madison never admitted anything unless she could twist it to make herself look like the victim. I scrolled through old pictures on my phone. Us at Lake Tahoe. Her smiling in the sun. Her hand on her stomach, pretending like she was carrying our future. Lies. Then I tapped into the bank app. And there it was. A $3,200 withdrawal from 2 weeks ago. Labeled Salon Plus Wellness. Right before she went on that girls' weekend. I remember asking her if she wanted me to come. She laughed. "You'd hate it. Spa stuff, you know." Spa. Sure. I closed the app and stared at the ceiling. The thing about betrayal, it doesn't hit you all at once. It creeps. Every little memory suddenly comes back with new context, and it starts to rot. Madison always came home late on Thursdays. Claimed it was late work meetings. She always smelled too clean, like she'd just scrubbed her entire body in panic. That should have been the first red flag. There's something about love that makes you willingly blind. By noon, I drove to the house. Not to argue, not to explain, just to gather proof. My hands didn't tremble anymore. I was too far past the edge. This wasn't sadness anymore. This was investigation. I still had my key. Slid it in. The front door opened quietly. Too quietly. I stepped in like a ghost, half hoping to find her mid-lie. The house was clean. Spotless. Too clean. Madison never cared this much about order unless she was hiding something. I walked into the bedroom and saw the picture frames had changed. Our wedding photo was gone, replaced with a floral print, the kind she said she hated. That's when I saw it, his shirt, hanging behind the door. It was a men's designer brand I'd never worn in my life. Still had a faint cologne smell. I stood there, staring at it like it was a loaded weapon. I grabbed it and checked the pockets. Nothing. Then, under the bed, I found the duffel, half zipped. Inside were a pair of size 12 sneakers, a razor, deodorant, and one of those chain necklaces Madison always said were cheap looking. I remembered now. She said she hated that look. But clearly, she liked his version of it. I sat on the edge of the bed and exhaled slowly. So it was real. There was someone else. Probably for months. And she let me pay for everything. Meals, appointments, nursery paint, the whole damn delivery. While she played me like a fool. I wasn't just cheated on. I was used. I took out my phone and snapped photos of everything. The shirt, the bag, even the frame. This wasn't for court. This was for me. So I'd never forget who she really was. A door clicked behind me. I turned. Madison stood there with a smoothie in one hand and his hoodie on. She didn't even flinch. "Oh," she said flatly. "Guess you're not staying at the hotel anymore." I stood up, calm, collected, ice in my veins. "You're disgusting," I said. She rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic." And that was it. No guilt. No shame. No apology. Just pure, cold-blooded cruelty. That moment. That was the final thread snapping that I didn't say anything for a full 10 seconds. Just stood there staring at her, the smoothie in her hand, the smug look on her face, the hoodie that definitely wasn't mine. It was surreal. Like watching a movie from the outside, only it was my life that had been hijacked. She took a sip through her straw, turned around, and walked toward the kitchen. Like she didn't just destroy a man. Like she was annoyed I had interrupted her little midday moment of peace. "Who is he?" I asked finally. She didn't even pause. "Why does it matter? You're not part of this anymore." Those words hit like a slap across the face. Not physically. Worse. Emotionally. A clean cut with a dull knife. You let me believe she was mine. You let me buy everything. Pay for everything. You named her after my mother. I said, my voice low but shaking. Madison tossed her keys on the marble counter. "Because you're stable. Because you're safe. And frankly, you're better at handling bills than emotions." Jesus Christ. "Don't act surprised, Noah," she snapped suddenly, eyes sharp. "You knew this wasn't working. You just didn't want to see it. You buried yourself in work, came home tired, barely touched me, barely noticed me. So someone else did." There it was. The classic switch. Turn the blame around. "Make me the villain in the story she wrote with someone else. That's how you justify it." I stepped forward. "Because I worked to give us a good life? That made you spread your legs for someone else and stick me with the bill." Madison didn't even flinch. She took another sip. "He made me feel alive, Noah. You made me feel like an accountant." "And now what?" I asked. "You think this is over? You think you walk away clean?" She smirked. "You walked out of the hospital, remember? That was your choice. I told you it wasn't that deep." "Not that deep," I said, laughing bitterly. "You lied for 9 months. Lied to my face, to my mother, to my friends. You played family while planning an exit. That's not shallow. That's calculated." "I did what I had to do," she said coldly. "And honestly, you're lucky I let you believe for as long as I did. Some men would have had a breakdown in the delivery room." I walked to the fridge, opened it, and pulled out the champagne bottle I had bought months ago to celebrate our new chapter. I set it down on the counter between us. "This," I said, pointing to the bottle, "was for the night we brought our daughter home. The daughter you pretended was mine." She stared at it, then at me. Still no emotion. Just empty superiority. I grabbed the bottle, twisted the cork until it popped loud, the foam spilling onto the counter. "To the end," I said, and I poured the entire bottle down the sink. Madison leaned against the wall. "What? Is this your revenge? Wasting expensive champagne?" I walked to the door, opened it wide. "No, that was just the wake-up. The revenge starts now." She tilted her head. "Oh, going to cry on Facebook? Maybe tag me in a sad little post." I looked her dead in the eyes. "I'm going to ruin your comfort. That's all I'll say." I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't raise my voice. I just left her standing there in his hoodie, holding her smoothie, confused that the man she thought was broken wasn't broken at all, just done playing nice. And deep inside, I made a promise. If she wanted a war, I'd make it clean, legal, and unforgettable. The walk from that house to my car felt like I was peeling my own skin off. Every step was heavy, but the weight wasn't physical. It was grief, rage, confusion, shame, all tangled into one unbearable knot sitting in my chest. I sat in the driver's seat with my hands on the wheel, but I didn't start the engine. I stared through the windshield, watching the world pass by while mine collapsed in silence. That woman had murdered something sacred. And the worst part? She didn't even blink. No guilt, no hesitation, just detachment, like I was an accessory that had outlived its usefulness. I didn't cry. I couldn't. My tears had dried up somewhere between the hospital and her saying, "You're not part of this anymore." Instead, I laughed. Quiet at first, then louder. The kind of laugh that doesn't come from humor. It comes from disbelief. I wasn't just betrayed. I was discarded. The messages started coming in later that night. Friends. Her friends. People who had heard her version of the story first. "I heard you stormed out of the hospital. Madison said you're going through something mental. You can't just abandon a newborn like that, dude." I didn't respond. Not yet. Not until they had all seen what I'd seen. I sent them the screenshots, the photos, the delivery bill. I even recorded a short voice message. "That's not my kid. She lied for 9 months. Lied to you too. And she had the nerve to thank me for footing the bill. You're talking to the wrong person." One by one, replies came in. Some apologized. Some didn't. Some stayed silent. But the damage was already done. My reputation had already been dragged through the mud before I could lift my head above it. You know what they don't tell you about betrayal? It makes you question everything. Not just the cheater. Yourself. Was I too blind? Too soft? Did I ignore the signs? Did I let comfort replace honesty? I started writing things down in a notebook that night. Not out of sentiment. Out of necessity. My mind couldn't hold it all anymore. Page 1. Madison used me. Page 2. She never said sorry. Page 3. What did I ignore? I listed every moment. Thursday nights, gym receipts, late-night showers, new lingerie I never saw her wear. My brain turned into a crime scene investigator. The pieces didn't just fit. They screamed. Her lover had been in our house, slept in our bed, probably drank from the same mugs I washed. And I, blind, loyal me, was too busy planning nursery colors and opening savings accounts. The thing that hit hardest? She never meant to come clean. Not ever. If that baby looked a little more like me, she'd have kept the charade going for life. I wasn't a husband to her. I was a sponsor. A wallet with a beating heart. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was my mom. "Mom, heard you left the hospital. What's going on? Are you okay?" She didn't know yet. No one in my family did. Madison had kept the game tight. I texted back. "It's not my child. I'll call you soon." No explanation. No drama. Just the truth. Then I went quiet. Logged out of everything. Turned my phone off. I needed space. Not from the world, but from the storm inside me. I stared at the hotel ceiling again that night. The same dull light. The same heavy air. But something in me had changed. Pain was no longer the dominant feeling. Now it was clarity. This woman ruined my peace. She lied, disrespected, humiliated. And I let her. Until now. The next move wouldn't be about feelings. It would be about consequences. And when I was done, Madison would wish she had never underestimated the man who paid the bill that I woke up the next day with steel in my spine. No more grieving. No more asking why. That part was done. I had a new mission now. Restore my name. Reclaim my dignity. And make Madison regret every smug word she ever uttered. The first thing I did was contact a lawyer. Not some family friend or small-time firm. I found the most cutthroat, reputation-shredding divorce attorney in the city. Her name was Veronica Hayes. She didn't blink when I told her the story. In fact, she leaned back, smiled, and said, "You're about to get everything she didn't expect." That was music to my ears. We met in her office downtown. It was sleek, minimalist, intimidating. Exactly how I wanted Madison to feel. I handed over all the documentation, the paternity results, the financial records, the delivery bill, photos of the other guy's stuff in my house. Veronica nodded, her fingers flying across her keyboard like a pianist scoring a symphony of vengeance. "Can I sue her?" I asked. "For fraud? Absolutely," she said. "We'll hit her with emotional distress, deception, and every financial angle we can find." This wasn't an affair. It was a scam. She used you like a surrogate father and bank account. Finally, someone understood. And then, something shifted. I didn't want just legal justice. I wanted personal clarity. I needed to know who the other guy was. Not for a fight. Not for confrontation. For truth. I needed a name. And that's when I remembered Madison's laptop. We used to share passwords, back when she pretended we were a team. She never changed them. I guessed it on the first try. Madison 1989. Within seconds, I was scrolling through a hidden folder in her email account labeled Wellness. Cute. Real subtle. Inside, hundreds of messages. Photos. Reservations. Even hotel confirmations. Most from a contact saved as J. Rivers. A quick search through one of the emails gave me everything I needed. Jason Rivers. Works at her company. Marketing director. Divorced. Gym rat. Drives a black Dodge Charger. The car that picked her up during her so-called girls' weekend. It all clicked. He wasn't just a fling. He was the backup plan. I printed out every email, every calendar event, every receipt. Organized them in folders. I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. That wasn't the battlefield I wanted. No, I had something better in mind. I took a drive to the HR department at Madison's company. Not to speak, but to deliver. I had an anonymous envelope addressed to Internal Affairs, HR. Inside, emails that clearly violated workplace ethics and policies, especially since Madison was in management. Sleeping with a coworker under the table? Grounds for review. Let's see how much fun their wellness retreats were when the board starts asking questions. When I got back to the hotel, I finally felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Control. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was acting. That night, I sat down with my notebook again. Flipped to a clean page. She used me. He helped her. Now they both face consequences. And then, on the next page, I wrote, "This is the cost of betrayal. Losing access to me forever." Because that's what this was about now. Not just justice. Not just revenge. This was about removing Madison from every part of my life. No more photos. No more contact. No more name on anything I owned. By the time I was done, she'd feel like she never existed in my story at all. That IT didn't take long. By the end of that week, the tremors had already started shaking Madison's perfect little world. And the best part? I didn't have to lift a finger. I just opened the right doors, and the truth walked in by itself. She called me 3 times on Tuesday. I didn't answer. Then a 4th. Then a text. "Madison, we need to talk. It's urgent." I let her sit in silence. She never wanted to talk before. Now suddenly, she was desperate. I already knew why. Wednesday morning, I got a call from Veronica, my attorney. "She's panicking," Veronica said, laughing into the phone like she'd seen it 100 times. Her company opened an internal investigation into her and Rivers. HR found those emails you dropped. He's been suspended pending review. She's next. I smiled. Good. Let her sweat. And sweat she did. By Thursday, my mother sent me a screenshot. Madison had posted a long, vague quote to her Instagram story about betrayal from unexpected places and people trying to ruin what they can't control. Classic misdirection. No accountability. Just whining in cursive font. I was sipping coffee at a downtown cafe when I saw her walk past the glass. Alone. No makeup. Hoodie pulled over her head. On the phone with someone. Pacing like she hadn't slept. For a second, I watched her. Not out of sympathy, but to witness the fall. She looked like someone who had finally realized she'd bet on the wrong man. And me? I wasn't broken anymore. I was building again, stronger, smarter, colder. That evening, she showed up at the hotel. Front desk called my room. Said there was a woman downstairs asking for me by name. Said she claimed to be my wife. I didn't go down. Instead, I called the front desk back and said, "She's not my wife anymore. If she comes back, notify security." And just like that, I shut another door in her face. She tried to force the next one open. The following day, I got an email from her. "Noah, I know you're angry. I deserve that. But please, let's talk. You've made your point. We both made mistakes, but don't throw everything away over one chapter." I stared at the screen for a long minute. One chapter. No, this wasn't a chapter. This was her entire arc, selfish, deceptive, and fake. I replied with one line. "You were never the book. You were a bad footnote." Blocked her email after that. But what really sealed it came 2 days later. A private investigator Veronica had hired found the smoking gun. Jason Rivers had been funding Madison's wellness trips long before she even got pregnant. He wasn't just a coworker. He was the one who paid for that paternity test to be delayed. He knew. And still, they both let me believe I was going to be a father. Let me decorate a nursery. Let me whisper promises to a child who had no connection to me except a last name that would soon be erased. I passed the report to HR. With names, dates, receipts. Jason was fired. Madison was placed on leave, pending disciplinary action. She tried calling me again. 6 more times. The woman who said I wasn't part of this anymore now suddenly wanted me back in. But it was too late. Far too late. She had lit the match. All I did was let it burn. Madison always thought she was untouchable, that no matter what she did, I'd eventually fold, crawl back, beg for closure or for peace. She thought the pain she caused would turn me into a shell of a man, desperate for resolution. But the truth is, nothing sharpens a man like betrayal. And by the time she handed me the divorce papers she thought she was controlling, she realized I wasn't the man she left at that hospital. I wasn't even the man who poured champagne down the sink. I was done. We met in the cold conference room at Veronica Hayes' office. Madison walked in 10 minutes late, hair tied back, blazer too stiff, trying to look composed. She sat down across from me like she still had leverage, like there was a single card left in her deck. I didn't say a word. I just watched her squirm under the silence. Veronica slid the folder across the table. This is what we're offering. Sign it, and this ends clean. Madison flipped through it and scoffed. You're joking. I get nothing. Veronica didn't blink. You lied. You committed paternity fraud. You caused significant emotional and financial damage. Frankly, if this went to court, you'd be lucky to walk away with your name. Madison looked at me then, really looked, and I could see it hit her. The walls were closing in. The mask was cracking. She wanted to cry, to scream, to beg. But pride's a hell of a thing. Instead, she said, fine, whatever. I don't need your money. She signed. And in that 1 second, the weight of 100 betrayals lifted from my shoulders. It was over. I walked out of that office with my spine straight and my heart cold, but no longer heavy. But I wasn't done yet. The divorce was the first step. The erasure came next. I went home, not to the house we once shared. I sold that the week before. Took every item, every memory, every picture, and boxed it. Most of it went to the dumpster. The rest, burned in a fire pit I built with my own hands. The crib? Gone. The wedding album? Scorched. The love letters I once held on to like proof of something real? Torn into confetti and dropped off at her office anonymously, with a sticky note that read, "Return to sender." Then came social media. I wiped her from every photo, every tag, every mention. Blocked her on every platform. Blocked her friends, too. If they chose her narrative, they could live in her lie. And I changed my number. A full restart. People say starting over is hard. It isn't. What's hard is realizing how much of your life was fake. Starting over is freedom. And as I erased her from every part of my world, I started seeing clearly again. I went back to the gym. Started sleeping better. Eating real food. Reading books I hadn't touched in years. My smile came back. Not the polite kind, the real one. The kind that comes from knowing you escaped something designed to break you. One evening, I ran into an old friend. Someone who had stayed quiet during the drama, didn't take sides. He asked me, "How are you really doing?" And I said, "She left me at my lowest and thought she won." But I wasn't at my lowest. I was at the bottom of a spring. And now, I'm rising. Because that's the truth. Madison didn't just cheat on a man. She created one that it's been 6 months. 6 months since the hospital. Since I handed her the delivery bill and walked out of that sterile room and into the coldest season of my life. I look in the mirror now and barely recognize the man staring back. Not because I've changed beyond recognition, but because, for the first time in years, I see myself clearly. No illusions. No lies. No shadow of her clinging to the corners of my reflection. I've built something new. Something mine. It started simple. New apartment. New number. New routine. But more than anything, a new mindset. Every day since I cut Madison out, I've focused on one thing. Remembering who I was before I met her, and becoming someone even stronger after her. I started journaling again. The same notebook I filled with pain is now filled with power. Lessons. Warnings. Milestones. On the last page, in big capital letters, I wrote, "Betrayal is a mirror. It shows you who they are, and who you could be without them." People ask sometimes. They'll tiptoe around it. "How's your ex? Do you think she regrets it?" Would you take her back if she changed? I always respond the same way. Calm, confident. She taught me everything I needed to know by becoming everything I didn't deserve. I don't check up on her. I don't scroll her socials. I don't ask mutuals what she's doing, because she's not part of the story anymore. I heard she moved in with Jason Rivers, but it didn't last long. Word got out about the HR scandal, and his reputation tanked. He got a job in another state. Madison stayed behind. Apparently, she's rebuilding. Let her. Let her glue the pieces of her image back together with the same dishonesty she built her life on. That's not my concern. Me? I finally feel peace. It's not loud. It's not a parade. It's not about showing off or proving anything. It's the silence when you wake up and your chest doesn't feel heavy. It's the taste of morning coffee you actually enjoy. It's reading a book on a Sunday afternoon and not wondering who's lying to you behind your back. It's freedom. I've even started dating again, cautiously, intentionally. I no longer fall for potential wrapped in pretty packaging. Now, I look for presence, truth, character. The lies Madison told me used to echo in my mind like sirens. Now they serve as warnings. Not walls, but signals. I can spot dishonesty in seconds. I trust my gut, and I never lower my standards just to feel less alone. Because I'd rather be alone with dignity than in company with betrayal. If someone out there is reading this, maybe you've gone through it too. Maybe you're still in it. Still wondering if it was your fault. Still replaying her words. Still haunted by how easily she moved on. Let me be clear. It wasn't your fault. You were loyal. You were honest. You gave love. That's not weakness. That's strength. The betrayal? That's on them. What you do next? That's on you. So take the pain. Use it. Mold it into discipline. Into clarity. Into power. Let it burn everything that made you blind and rise from the ashes with your eyes wide open. I did. And now, she's nothing more than a name I don't say in a chapter I've closed forever.